Hey, Dave here from Fix and Fly RC with another little update on the reviving the B-1B, getting it back together. Um, from a distance, from the other videos where all the white from the spackling, she doesn't look half bad. I'll show you close up in a minute, but I still got some work to do in here. I'm not real happy with that patch area, but I think all in all, it's coming along. So I'm actually at the point where I want to go ahead and start putting it back together, and get everything working again. So I need to close the gear and do a couple other things so I can kind of do some final cleanups and checkouts on to make sure everything is working well before I get too far. And probably we'll do a maiden on it again once I'm confident everything's up and working again. Maybe before I do a complete, if I decide to do a complete repaint and put the decals and stuff on it. But anyway, let me get you a close up and explain where we're at. Okay, first I'll just kind of show you a status of that big patch area I did a video on, which is this area right here. And you can kind of see there's some area right there that needs another little filling in and smoothing out. But it's hard to tell until you get some paint on it where those areas are with just the spackles. So this area I did some work on. Again, it's not perfect, and you to get these things out and stuff like that, you just have to do a ton of work, probably more than I really want to put into this plane. I just really want to get it back flying again. So anyway, putting back together the wing sweep mechanism here, I realized I did make a little bit of a mistake when I was pulling that out, not thinking that the servo wires have to get back up through a hole in the plane, which is right in there. And I didn't think about that. And so what I should have done when I disconnected it from the box underneath was to tie a wire on it. So when I pulled it through the plane, I had a string or something available to me to kind of pull it back through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull, I hooked up some strings. I'm going to pull this through, and then as each one kind of goes up through, I'm going to try to pull it through. Haven't done this yet, so doing this for the first time. If it doesn't work, I'll come up with something different. So I'm going to reset the camera up and see how this works. Not a whole lot of space. It's probably not too hard, but just to make it a little easier, hopefully to pull it through, because once I get the first part of the mechanism through, I think it's going to kind of block the hole, so it's going to be harder to get the second one through here. So what I did was I just went ahead and took me a couple pieces of twine and pushed a pull rod up through the back side because it's a little bit easier. So we'll just pull this up through here. And so now I've got two strings. Get this off. I just put a little tape on it. Wasn't even sure if it was going to be enough to hold it, but it did. All right. So I got me a couple little pull strings through there. I'm just doing this, figuring this out as I go right now. So we'll see if I learn anything. There's the first servo wire, just feeding it through. So the first servo wire is through. Kind of got my pull wires caught up there. All right. There's a couple little slots in there. I'm going to utilize those to kind of keep the wire out of the way. So got to pull these apart just a little bit. Get the wire, the string tied in. And usually when I'm pulling servo wires through a tight space, if you're not careful, the connector will bend over and it gets hung up. I think I got plenty of room here. Alright, so there's my first servo wires through. Let's just hope the second one makes it that easy. What I probably should have done, I'm gonna pause this for a second. Okay, I did have to pause and think through a problem here. I had wasn't going to be able to tie the second string on through here, so I had to pull the mechanism back out and tie the string through, and then just kind of pull it through as I'm pushing. See if I can get it to come through the hole. And I think I see it. Yep. Alright, so I've got both servo wires are now through the hole. So I can go ahead and push this the rest of the way through. So I'm going to pause here for a minute, flip the plane over so I can work from the other side. Okay, generally when you're pushing on something and it's not moving, you know, easily or something, that's usually telling you something, you know, is caught up. And then it wasn't much, but I can see when I was pushing it through here, there's a little piece of foam there that it was catching on. So I think if I just push back down on that, it should come on through. All right, so the mechanism is now seated right back in the hole where it belongs. So the next step now is going to be, of course, putting the screws back in there, and then it'll be pretty close to be ready to put the wings on. Okay, a couple tips real quick that I made a mistake. One thing I wasn't paying attention to when I first put it in is to make sure both the push rods from the servos were pointed out, and this one here was actually still that way. So I had already started putting the screws and stuff in when I realized that that wasn't sticking out. So had to unscrew it, pull it back out, flip that around, make sure it's in there. So just one of those things, sometimes you get going a little fast. One other little thing that just for me that's made this a little bit easier, and I actually went back and looked at my video from before just to make sure, because it's the Phillips heads that are on the outside, it's the small Allens on the inside, but trying to get it through this hole and straighten the screw up is a little bit of a problem. So I just took a little needle nose so I can hold the screw a little more stable until I get it set into the Allen. Oops, let it slip. And then just screw it back in. Okay, so I've got my landing gear hooked back up. Got the screws on the outside here. Don't forget you had 2 underneath here as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 down in there. Got this plate back on, which is another 2 Phillips head screws. Now, one thing on this one, you can see right here where this is broken. I looked on the other plane and they were broke too. So instead of ordering another set, I probably will just put some medical tape across here, like a hinge, like if you ever used it for fixing a hinge, at least for now, to say it worked. I've also got my sweep mechanisms plugged back into the box here. And just remember your polarities so they're not turned backwards. All right, so next step is I'll flip the plane, reconnect the receiver, do a power up, make sure that everything's working before I actually put the wings back on. But anyway, we're actually making some progress. It's starting to look like a plane again.